Jasmine, are you there?
Yes.
All right, cool. I don't I don't see you up there. Can you talk a little bit? Get it over on you.
How are you today?
Doing well. How was your weekend?
It was pretty good.
What'd you get into?
Well, I had to work a couple days, and then my youth group at my church, we went to the Berry Hill Plantation and ate lunch yesterday.
Well, that's cool. So where do you work? I forgot.
Dollar Tree.
Oh, that's right. Dollar Tree. Okay, cool. Well, that's good. You got to go out with your youth group at church. That's important. That support group. Uh, I don't know what I'm going to do. I'm still fighting my water system. And a guy was supposed to come up and take a look at my spring and tell me if he thinks it's rerouting, because I think it is, to see whether or not he thinks he could dig back in the mountain and find it and put in another spring box or not. But his son got sick, and so he didn't make it up. So I'm still, I've got one water tank full. I tried to get the other one full yesterday. I'm really worried. A well's going to cost. I bet you it cost me up to 10 grand, maybe even more, depending how deep they have to go. Uh, I'm pretty concerned about it, and that's what's been on my mind and what I've been working on all weekend. I will get your homework graded. Uh, I need to get all of them graded, uh, but I haven't done it yet. I'm slacking, but I do have them. Uh, but anyway, and I've got to get a test made up and sent to Tom. Uh, and I got to send one, I guess, to Abington. I got a lady in Washington County taking this class online. She teaches school, uh, and she's taking it, and she'll have to go to the testing center there in Virginia Highlands and take the exam. But anyway, uh, that's not your problem. That's mine. But my main problem is trying to keep water. Uh, so anyway, uh, I don't know where Evan is. I thought he'd be here today. He had to take his driving test last week. Uh, he might have been called into work. I don't know. But anyway, the past couple days we've been talking about forage management, and we talked a lot about cool season grasses and how they grow. Now let's get down. Let's just get very basic real quick again, just to kind of refresh us. What's the point, or why do we want to manage our forages with grazing?
Um,
You're in the hot seat again today.
because grazing is cheaper than buying feed and hay.
That's right. Uh, so if we can extend our grazing season a month, 2 months, that's going to save us some money. The other thing that managing, our grazing, being good forage managers does is we can get we can run more livestock typically in normal years because remember we were talking about the trampling and all the waste that we have and forage utilization, how it's only like 30% of our forages are used in a continuous grazing system, whereas the smaller we get those paddocks, the better utilization we get from our forages. So by going in there and managing their forages, managing their grazing, we can, in normal years, excluding drought, okay, we can run more cattle. And the other thing it does is we can get more gain per acre. Now, when I tell you that, you need to understand the concept you need to understand is we may not get more individual gain, but we're getting more gain on a herd of cattle. Like, let me give you an example. When I first started running stockers on their farm, uh, I did like, one year I did like 40 steers, okay? And they gained about 300 pounds. And that's pretty good over the summer. Now, the next year, I went in there and I put up some division fencing. And and what I did then, I did 10 more steers. I increased my herd to 50. And my individual weight per steer dropped. Okay, I think I averaged about 225 pounds per steer. But I was able to run more steers. So I still got the total amount of weight, but, you know, as I did the previous year with 40 steers. But, you know, individually the steers put on less weight, but as a group, I got more weight because had more steers, and I got more weight put on per acre. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Okay. So by controlled grazing, we get more weight put on per acre of our land. Now, you know, one of the things that we have in farming is, you know, we have to pay for that land. So we want as much out of it as possible. Granted, you know, we're going to have to, and we talked about this last week about, you know, fertilizing. We still going to have to fertilize our pastures for that grass to grow properly because we're removing that product at the end. It's not a continuous deal like with horses. You know, we're bringing in nutrients with feed and hay, but we're not taking those horses off for trail horses. But, you know, we're taking those nutrients off with calves when we sell our calves, right? So, you know, it's important for us to continually check our soil fertility and fertilize accordingly for proper growth. The thing we want to do, what we strive for, if you take a look, this is in Blackboard, this little chart right here, this shows different stages of growth for grass. Okay, and I think this is orchard. Yeah, this is orchard grass. See how it's shaped like a dog foot in a way, or resembles a dog foot, especially when those seeds come out. It looks more like a dog foot, which is why it's nicknamed dog foot. But we see here, early in its growth, you see all this leaf structure on this plant. The stem's right here in the middle, but you got these big leaves. And fescue's the same way. Most grasses are the same way. This is where your nutrients are in these leaves. Okay? And they're tender. They're full of nutrients. They don't have a whole lot of fiber in there because cattle, they can use fiber up to a point. Then, you know, they get too fibrous. It's not going to do, you know, they're not going to be able to use it. They'll get filled up. It's like you eating a bowl of all brand cereal in the morning. You know, it'll fill you up. It's very fibrous, and it'll fill you up, but you may not get all your nutrients from that one bowl of cereal. Does that make sense?
Yes.
So you got a lot of nutrients here in these leaves, and that's where ideally, that's where we kind of want to keep our plants. We want to keep them in a leafy stage. Now, this next growth stage is what's called the boot stage. The stem's bigger, and the seed head is still wrapped in leaves. It's not come out yet. Okay? This is an ideal range when you want to mow your hay for mow your grass for hay. You'll have the highest quality. It's a balance point with nutrient content and fiber content. You don't have a whole lot. You got some fiber in the stem, and this is when this is when you kind of want to turn in your cattle as well, because you get, the stem's pretty tender still yet. You got these leaves, a lot of nutrient value, and then it goes into the heading stage when this head starts to come out, the seed head starts to show itself. And look at your fiber content. Your dry matter's increasing, your fiber, the cellulose content, and the cattle can't use cellulose, is increasing, and your non-structural carbohydrates, and it's starting to decrease. So you want to cut your hay ideally in this boot stage, because your fiber content starts to go up big time, and your non-structural carbohydrates are starting to decrease here at this point of that heading. And then this last stage, it's all headed out. Your fiber content's the highest, your dry matter content's the highest, your non-structural carbohydrates decreased, your protein's decreasing, and you got a lot more fiber, and it's going to be tougher. They'll eat the leaves and they'll leave the stem. And then, with fescue is a lot of times, in that seeds where we have our issues with that ergot point or ergot. So ideally, we don't want our pastures to seed out. Okay? We want to graze them. We want to keep it in this leafy stage. Now, they're only going to seed out once a year. Okay? So if we come in here in the spring and we graze this down, right here in this boot stage or this heading stage, and they eat this stem, you'll just get leafy growth. It's not going to, it won't grow back, it won't seed back out again. Does that make sense? You'll just have a lot of leaf growth. So that's the reason we want to come in here and in the spring when we get that high growth, we want to kind of manage a little bit different, because we don't want them to seed out. We want to go in there and either open up our pastures for everything to graze, or we go through there and we put all of our cattle in one lot, and then we move them. We do it really quickly and get it through there to prevent this seed heading. Or what we can do is, if our land allows it, let me put it up here. Everybody's farm's different. I can't do this, okay, because of my rock. But say we have our pasture here, and say we have, we've got it stripped off or divided up. We can move our cattle through here really quick, so that our forages try to prevent our forages from heading out. And that's what I do. I just go in there, I put my cattle in there, and I just try to hit everything really fast to prevent the grass getting into that heading out stage. Because once we knock that stem down, it'll stay in a leafy growth. The other thing, if your land provides and you got to have hay, is you can come in here and start grazing. And as your grass, as your forages mature, and they come up here to this boot stage, you can come in here, say you're grazing this, but over here your grass is getting ahead of you. You can come in here and knock this down for hay. You can cut it, bale it. Okay. Now, to manage our grasses to keep them healthy, these cool season grasses, as a general rule of thumb, these grazers say you take half, you leave half. Ideally, we only want to graze down to 3 to 4 inches, then move our cattle. Now we can get more picky, like bluegrass, you can graze down to 1 inch. Fescue, you can go 2 to 3 inches and not hurt it. And orchard grass, you can go up to, you can go down to 4 inches. But if you're like me, and you've got a mix in your pasture, which is good, you just want to go down to about 3 to 4 inches and move them. And what we want to do when we move our cattle, we want to give this pasture time to rest and recuperate. That makes sense?
Yes.
The taller our plant, the taller our root system is, or the deeper in the ground it goes, so it can draw moisture and nutrients from down deep. So we can come in here and graze it, let it rest, come in here and graze this other one. Now, the magic question, or the question you get asked a lot, is how long do I let that pasture rest? Right? Isn't that what you wanted to ask me?
Yes.
You might not have known it, but you were wondering, how long do I let it how long do I let this rest before I come back? Right? I can't give you a definite answer on that, because the answer is it depends. It depends on temperature. It depends on rainfall. It depends on the growing season. In the spring, when grass is growing, April, May, early June, we may only give this a 2-week rest. If we graze it down to 3 to 4 inches, we don't really want to come back in this on a cool season grass till it's about 8 inches. So in the spring and fall, when it's cool and we're getting rain, it may be 2 weeks. In the summertime, when it's hot and dry, it may be 4 to 6 weeks. Does that make sense? Or it could be 2 months. This summer was pretty hot and it was pretty dry and the grass quit growing. So how long you leave it rested depends. So in the summertime, and say we're going through our paddocks, and we've got that summer slump when the grass isn't growing, we're either going to have to have a bunch of paddocks and so we can rest it, or we can come in with warm season grasses on some of these to hit that, or we can come in here with feed and feed them for a couple of 3 weeks till our grass catches up, right? We have options. Ideally, and I'm going to tell you this stuff ideally because in real life and people's individual situations, it's not always holds true. Does that make sense? What's ideal and what's real life sometimes are two different things. Ideally, we want these paddocks small enough so that we can get them grazed down in 5 to 7 days. That's ideal, that we move them every 5 to 7 days. Do you know the reasoning behind that?
No.
Well, the reasoning behind that, Jasmine, is that we can go in here and graze it and move them off before they start to regrow. If we leave them in here longer than 5 to 7 days, this grass that they already ate starts to regrow, and they come back and they eat that regrowth. And then we can damage our plants and make them less vigorous. Does that make sense now?
Yes.
The other reason we try to move them within 5 to 7 days is to reduce the trampling and damage through trampling. So we try to get it small enough we can last them 5 to 7 days, move them, give it a rest. And that's the maximum you really want to graze a pasture or a paddock, and then move them every 5 to 7 days. You can, as I said, you can get down where you can move them every day. You can move them twice a day. It's how intensive you want to get it. The more intensive you get it, the better forage, and you have your soils fertilized, the better you're going to, the more weight you're going to get, the more cattle you can run on your pastures, the more weight you're going to get per acre. But, you have to ask yourself, do I have the facilities to do this? Do I have the water? Do I have, and I'm not saying you have to put water systems in. You're going to have to put a water system in, but can you run a hose and move a water trough? You know what I mean? Or carry water over to them. How much time do you have to deal with it to get them smaller than 5 to 7 days? And that's an individual question. Everybody's different. Everybody's land lays different. Your land may not allow that. So, or you may not have time to move them every day or twice a day or every 2 to 3 days. But ideally, you don't want any longer than 5 to 7 days for that. And our cool season grasses, we don't want to go below 4 inches. You'll need to know that for the exam. You don't want to go below 4 inches. You want to keep it about 4 inches and go on. Unless, if it's solely monoculture fescue, you can go down to 3 inches, maybe even 2 and not damage it. But the shorter you get it, the longer recovery time you're going to have as well. Does that make sense?
Yes.
All right. So another question you get a lot when, how many cows per acre can I run? You hear that a lot, right? Again, that answer is it depends, because soil types vary within a pasture, within a field. Are you grazing a hillside? Are you grazing a river bottom? Are you grazing a ridge line? All that makes a difference. But if you really wanted to, there's some formulas that you can do, and I'm not going to make you know this for the exam. Let me pull it up. Or I shouldn't. Let's see here. Maybe I need to rephrase my question to how many acres per cow. Virginia, typically a rule of thumb for Virginia is an acre per cow calf pair. And in ideal situations, that may work. It's probably, in reality, it's probably 2 to 3 acres. Okay. Just because of real life situations. Does that make sense? But you know, when you ask yourself, how big do I make these paddocks? You can do it trial and error. Uh, and that's probably going to, because it's going to change throughout the growing season on on how fast that forage grows back, and as your cattle change weight, as your calves get bigger, they eat more grass. So those paddocks are going to change. Uh, the one useful tool we have for planning the acreage, or how big a paddock should be and how many paddocks you need. Um, right here, on that cool season management of cool season forages, and I have on Blackboard is a formula. You can take the average weight of animals to be grazed, multiply that by the dry matter consumed per animal, and we can look at that. We can figure that out on that in those NRC tables. What's the dry matter intake, and it'll tell you the pounds, but it'll also tell you the percent body weight. So you can take that percent body weight and multiply that by the weight, and you can multiply that by the number of animals you have by the number of days on the paddock. So if you're going to say 7 days, uh, usually animals eat 2 to 3% of their body weight. Say you have 500-pound steers, and say you have 40 steers. You can multiply that and do your division, the dry matter, and they'll tell you how many acres required per paddock. Now, this dry matter available per acre in the paddock to be grazed, uh, there's a formula for that as well. I I have a grazing stick that I got that has these formulas on there, and how much dry matter you can put that stick laying down on the ground and count how many dots, and that's going to tell you how much, give you an estimate of the dry matter. You do that 3 or 4 places, you know, and get an average of how much dry matter is in that pasture, or how much dry matter you have. There's a lot of math required, but you know, people, in reality, a lot of people do that with trial and error using the poly wire, and they just use temporary fencing, or using some type of electric fence in a temporary basis, and can adjust the size of pastures. But there are big formulas you can use, and I'm not going to make you know those, but you need to know they're out there, and they are on Blackboard for you, that you could use. Uh, so anyway, that's a pretty this this extension publication is very good, useful. Uh, has all the formulas and stuff to figure out how many paddocks you want to use. I in real life, it's trial and error for me. And with my time, I have it to where I can. I don't have it down to 5 to 7 days for all my pastures, all my paddocks. I'm about 2 weeks, and and the reason I don't go smaller is because of my water situation. I don't have a water system in yet to where I could do that. If I installed some water tanks, some waterers, I could divide up my pastures even more to where it's about a week at a time. But I haven't done that yet. I just don't have the money, and don't want to go for the government to get help with that. Uh, the other thing I wanted to go over, do you have any questions about controlled grazing with cool season grasses?
No.
Okay, and we talked a lot. We talked about stockpiling fescue. We talked about using grains, small grains to extend your grazing season. If you take a look, this uh, you come down here as well. This is that same extension publication. We can look here. It's got the charts, kind of like I try to draw out about growing seasons, growing patterns. Uh, this would be bluegrass. We'll just look at Kentucky or tall fescue, Kentucky 31. You know, late March, early April through June, we see a big growth curve. We have our summer slump, late June, July, early August. We start seeing growth again. We come in here, we can stockpile it, clip it down to about 4 inches, apply 60 to 80 pounds of nitrogen per acre, pull our cattle off of it, and then after it frosts, we can come in here and we can graze it. And depending how much stockpile that we have, we can get by for several months. Okay, depending on how much we have and how many head of cattle we have, and if we strip graze it or whatever. Uh, but that can extend our grazing season. If you take a look at we talked about our legumes, our clovers, and alfalfa. Pretty much they followed the cool season growth pattern. Now we talked small grains, wheat and rye, and triticale. Triticale is a cross between wheat and rye. We get a growth in February, starts growing in February, March, and April. So we can come in here early and have some grazing, and we can have some grazing in late fall. Same thing with ryegrass. Ryegrass is different than rye, but it can extend our grazing season. These are warm season grasses, Bermuda, switchgrass, blue stem, and then this is these are annuals, the sorghum, Sudan grass we could plant, or the millet. We can feel that summer slump with those. Make sense? And then we could also come in here with brassicas, which are they're turnips, and get a fall grazing with turnips as well. So there's different things we can plant to extend our grazing season, whether we plant perennials such as switchgrass or blue stem or Bermuda grass. And see, like for me, Bermuda grass is not going to work because it will freeze out in the wintertime, because this winter it wouldn't, but last winter it would have. It can't handle really cold temperatures for long periods of time. So, although we live in the same state, we have a major difference in climate. Bermuda grass would probably work pretty good out there. You could just have a couple of your paddocks in Bermuda grass to graze in that summer slump. I need to go with blue stem or switchgrass or an annual. I'd probably go millet. And I'll explain why I would go millet, because there's some poisonings you have to be careful of with the sorghum and Sudan grass mixture. So this is another publication with warm season annuals that we can come in with. It's there in Blackboard as well. The thing with and these annuals you have to plant every year, so that can run into a little bit of money. But it still may be cheaper than harvesting the hay and feeding it back. Now with sorghum, you have to plant it every year. You can buy sorghum comes in two different varieties. You can get a grain sorghum, or you can get there's several different varieties, but basically there's a grain sorghum that you grow and you harvest the seeds for the grain, or you can plant a forage type sorghum that you can hay, you can make silage out of, and you can graze it. So if you're using it for a forage type situation, you want the forage sorghum. Um, Now the thing with sorghum and also with Sudan grass is related to sorghum. Uh, People don't use it very much anymore. It's a medium producing type deal. What they use more now is a sorghum Sudan grass mix. They call it Sudex. It's a hybrid. Um, so you get a tall growing annual grass that resembles Sudan grass, um, but it has more production than Sudan grass. Um, and it's better than Sudan grass. Most people use this sorghum Sudan grass mix, or they just grow sorghum, a forage sorghum. The thing you have to be careful with sorghum and Sudan grass, you don't feed it to horses. Okay, you don't let horses graze it. Uh, so don't even think about using that with horses. Cattle, you can use it, but you got to be careful. Two things you got to be real careful of with sorghum and Sudan grass is prussic acid poisoning. Prussic acid, let's just to put it, it's the official term of it, but basically it turns into cyanide. It ties up all the oxygen in the blood, and they turn blue. The tongue turns blue, and the gums because they not getting oxygen, and they suffocate to death. Uh, it's like cyanide poisoning, basically. So you have to be careful. Uh, you can manage it, and so what you the prussic acid poisoning, to prevent it, you do not graze sorghums or Sudan grass or Sudex when it's below 30 inches. You have to let that plant get up to at least 30 inches tall before you go in there and graze it. And then you graze it down to about 5 to 7 inches, say 6 inches on average. And then you move your cattle off of it. You let it grow to get up to 30 inches again, and then you can graze it again. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Uh, okay. The other thing you have to be careful of with that prussic acid poisoning is grazing it after a frost. For some reason, that frost will get that prussic acid there in those leaves. So if it frosts, you better get your cattle off of it, or don't turn them in on it until after those leaves have died. Once they're dead and they turn brown, you can go in there and graze it. But make sure it doesn't have any new leaf growth on it. You know how we get those early frosts? We may get an early frost and it damages the plants and then they start growing again. You got to be real careful because you can come up with that prussic acid poisoning again. So you have to be aware of that and make your grazing management decisions according to the height of the plant and frost. The other issue you have with sorghum, Sudan grass, and Sudex, another type of poisoning you can get is nitrate poisoning. Typically, when we plant sorghums, Sudex, and Sudan grasses, we have to apply additional nitrogen. And so we can run into nitrate poisoning if it's a drought situation. So if we plant it, we lay our nitrogen down and we plant it, and it doesn't grow very well because of a drought, those nitrates accumulate in that plant, and the nitrates will bind up the oxygen, and you can get nitrate poisoning with your cattle. So you got to be careful with those, and that's why I don't care for it. I'm scared of it, and I shouldn't be. It's just you just got to be careful with management. But there are some other plants, annuals that we can grow that are safer. Uh, One of them being millets, for foxtail or pearl millet. Pearl millet's more popular because foxtail millet, it gets spiky and they don't eat it as well. Uh, the stems are smaller; they're not as thick as with the sorghums and Sudans and Sudex grasses, uh, and it's leafier, and you don't have that prussic acid poisoning you have to worry about. Still got to worry a little bit about the nitrogen, but it's not as bad as with the others. Uh, I'm sorry. I thought I had my phone turned off. Let me cut it off. Uh, so I like the millets. I'm more comfortable with that just from the standpoint I don't have to worry about the poisoning. And I've used that before. And I showed you pictures of that on Friday. Um, Again, when we plant our millets, we want them to grow. Uh, they'll grow very fast. You can plant them, and in about 45 to 60 days, they'll be ready to graze. You don't have to worry about the prussic acid poisoning. Uh, you wait till it's about 18 inches or so before you graze the millet. And then you graze it down, as I was telling you before, you only graze it to about 8 to 12 inches, and then you move them off of it so that you don't hurt with the trampling or getting below that growth point. And then you can give it a rest. When it gets about 18 inches again, you can come in there and graze it again. I like that. Uh, that's what I prefer because I don't have to worry about the nitrate or I don't have to worry about the prussic acid deal. Uh, so you can run into the nitrate poisoning. Don't graze it if it's drought stressed, uh, and you'll be okay. Uh, Another one, and it's not on this. It's not on this publication. It's a grain called teff, Teff. It's becoming really popular. Uh, it there was a lot of it's an old grain. It's from Africa. It's very drought resistant, and they've been doing a lot of research with it. A few years back, when I was a county extension agent, I went up to a field day up in West Virginia they were talking about teff, and it was a research project with West Virginia University and Virginia Tech of finishing out cattle, grass-fed cattle, and they were using teff as a summer annual, and it was really dry that year, and that teff was one of the few things that was still green. And you can graze it, you can hay it, and I bought some. It's really good horse hay too. Uh, it doesn't have a lot of carbohydrates in it for horses. If you have horses that have an issue with metabolizing carbohydrates, it's and it's it's a commodity now that horse people like. They like that teff hay. And this guy had alfalfa, and he went in there. He had a big alfalfa field, and he went in there and he drilled in teff with that alfalfa, and I bought that alfalfa teff hay mixture. That's some of the best horse hay I ever bought. Uh, Man, it was nice. I can't remember what we got it tested. It was pretty high. It was high in protein. It was high, good energy content. Uh, and for the horses, it was a little bit higher in fiber for us. But it was really good horse hay. And that's horse people are liking that teff deal, that teff annual grass. Um, but no, it's available out there as well, and it's becoming a hot item that people are using. Teff, TEFF, and you can use that with horses. Um, so just be careful with that. As I said, you don't graze the sorghums, Sudan grass, and the Sudex for horses. Uh, you can use pearl millet. Uh, Foxtail with horses, you can use the pearl millet. Foxtail millet acts as a laxative with horses, so be careful with that. Uh, and it causes excessive urination as well with horses, and can cause some kidney problems and bone problems. So stay away from foxtail millet with horses. Um, and we talked a little bit about crabgrass. Crabgrass, kind of like Bermuda grass, it can feel that need. You have to plant it every year. Uh, but if you don't like it in your yard, don't plant it in your pastures near your yard. uh, but it can it can it can fill a deal, fill that need, and there's a lot of stuff going on with crabgrass is there with that as well. Uh, any questions with forage management?
No.
Okay. You'll need to come up with a forage management plan for your farm as well. And that will be your next homework assignment, is putting together a forage management plan, because you should have, hopefully you've got your ration balancing of what you're getting, what you need to feed your livestock. We've talked a lot the last 2 weeks about forage management. And to show you some more stuff up here, um, in the folder forage management on Blackboard, I've got a lot of information up here. Uh, this one here may help you as well, still developing an overall forage management plan. Uh, this is from Arkansas. This has got some really good information in it. Now, Arkansas, they have a lot of fescue. They use a lot of cool season grasses, but they also, in that environment, they can use warm season grasses a little bit better than what I can here in southwestern Virginia. Uh, but it's a really good one. It explains a lot. First off, it goes into talking about the nutrition, the different stages of production of livestock, how much they eat, uh, calculating their dry matter forage requirements, uh, figuring it out for the year, and you know, then breaking it down to seasons or production cycles. The different stages of production, figuring out about how much hay you need, uh, what are the seasonal production. I mean, it breaks it down in little things you can use. Uh, this is a really good one for you to use. Uh, it's a really good publication. You need to read it. Uh, and this grazier arithmetic, I put it in here. Uh, It's shows you all their math on how to do stuff. You know how much, what's your carrying capacity uh, for your farm. You know, getting to, figuring out your annual production, your utilization rate, stuff like that. So, when people ask you how many acres, how many cows does it take per acre, what's going to be your answer, Jasmine?
It depends.
It depends. There's no easy answer for these things, okay? I could have a farm right beside yours and it could be different. Not only, although our soils would be probably very similar where we join up as neighbors, but the way I manage may be different than the way you manage. Uh, how much I fertilize may be different from how much you fertilize. And that's going to be, that's going to have a big impact on our forage production. The type of forages I use may be different than what you use. So uh, everything's going to be different, you know. Uh, but this is a pretty neat little deal with all their mathematical formulas and how they come up with it. Uh, so uh, most people look at it the simpler approach, being very keeping. I'm all for, you know for me. I look at things. I keep. You ever heard of the KISS method? You ever heard of KISS? Not the rock band,
No.
or the actor KISS. Uh, it stands for keep it simple, stupid. Okay. I'm all for keeping things simple because I can be very stupid at times. Uh, Whether I'm training horses, I keep it as simple as possible when I'm trying to teach concepts to horses or teach a new maneuver. I've got to keep it simple. Uh, or training dogs or messing with my livestock, try to keep everything simple, especially my grazing management. Uh, I guess you're kind of wondering about my farm. What do I have? My farm, I've got, you know, my farm's good and bad. I'm not going to lie to you. I got good parts and bad parts. I'll draw it out here for you. It won't be to scale, but my farm kind of comes up here.
It's not on the document camera, it's on the computer
Thank you
screen.
for telling me that. Okay, that's how my farm lays. Or that's how kind of the shape of my farm. It's not squared. It's not a rectangle. I got joints out. Okay. I got a creek over here that runs down here a little ways. I got a creek that runs down through here. A house sits over here. I got a little spring up here that's rerouting. Uh, the entrance to my farm comes in like this. Got a little barn here. Uh, I got a division fence right through here. Uh, well, it comes down here to the road. I'm sorry. I got a division fence here below me, right through here. Right here's a fence. There's a creek that runs down. I don't have this fenced off yet. I had it fenced off. I ripped it out. I got to replace it. Uh, I got some water over here in this corner. Over here, I got a a stream that runs down this holler and a stream uh, hit the stream over here and then the stream over here. Now, where this kind of gets tricky is there's a big hill right back here. It's real steep, kind of comes down, flattens out here behind my house, the ridge line. I got real big, real big steep bank here. I got dug a road out through here and back around here. Big old mountain right through here. Creek runs on, and I got a field, about a 5 acre field over here, and I got another ridge line over on this other side of this creek. It's steep in places. That's a jumbled up mess. So, like this second part of my farm, it's real steep. As I said, it's a cliff basically. I got a road down to it, comes around. There's a creek runs down through that holler, comes around the base of that hill. This is real steep hill, full of trees. I got this fenced out. I got a pasture right here, about 5 acres or so of field. Creek running here, and then it goes uphill, and then it goes up. I don't know why I put it there on that corner. Let's see, try it again. Real steep. Got a creek here. The road comes down through that cliff and around. And I got a nice field through here. Another creek. And I got hillside pasture through here. This is the top of the ridge line. And comes down real steep again. And all this is trees. All this is trees. I got a fence right around that hill, so the cattle comes down through the creek. I got that fenced off, so they don't get up here in this holler and on that hill. It's straight up and straight down, and it's a pain to keep a fence up. And so I can throw my cattle over here, and I keep them about a week or two, depending on the grazing season. I can move them over here. I got this lot here. I keep them in for about a week or two. I keep them down here for about a week. A lot of trees and rocks down through here. And I keep them over here for about a week. This is my hay field here. So that doesn't get grazed except the wintertime. I got some horses on it now. And I'll pull them off here at the end of the month and fertilize it again. But, if I were to put a water trough in here in the middle of this field, see, I could come in here either with permanent or temporary fencing. I'd probably just do temporary fencing and come in here to the water trough and then go up. And then when they got that take down, I would just leave this temporary fence up, run it over here to this corner, let them water here, and then same here. I could hit it all 4 ways. And that'd probably give me about 4 to 5 days, 3 to 4 days in each corner. I could come in here at the division fence, actually 2 division fences, and let them graze here below the barn, move them over here, move them over here, move them up here if I had a good water source. But they have to come in behind my barn, my house to drink water. But I need some water systems. I need 1, 2, 3, 4. I need about 4. If I didn't want them to water in this water, I need 5 there. A hay field. About 7 or 8 water systems, 7 or 8 water troughs in. I could really divide things up a lot better and just use temporary fence. But I can't. you know how we were talking about letting your grass in the paper, starting here and, you know, haying some of this stuff here that's starting to get ahead of you. I can't really do that on my farm because of the rock. My farm's pretty rocky. Uh, so uh, that's an issue that I battle is all the rock. You don't have a lot of that out there where you live, do you?
No.
And I got a lot of steep land I can't even get my tractor on. I'm scared to put it on there. Other people say, "Oh, I'd put a tractor on there. I wouldn't worry about it." But it's not worth it to me to get killed or tear up my equipment, roll it over, chance on getting killed, or have it run away with me and chance on crashing it and getting killed. It's not worth it to me. So I don't put my tractor on that steep land. If I had four-wheel drive, I'd probably have a little bit more guts about it, but I don't. My big problem on my farm, I can't find that money tree. I think I cut it off, cut it down or sprayed it or something. I've been all over it. If I could find that money tree, I'd go out there and pick those money leaves off and go buy what I need. Money is my limiting factor of what I can do. You don't have that problem, do you? You're a broke college student. I'm being facetious.
I'm still looking for that tree though.
Yeah, I look. I can't find it. But see, you caught the joke. I tried to tell my wife that. She goes, "I didn't know there was such a thing as a money tree." Like, honey, there's not. I love my wife. She's from Philadelphia. She's a city girl, and it's funny. It was so funny. She we first, when we got married and we were able to move back here. I was living here when we were dating, and then when we got married, I moved. She was living in Wilmington, North Carolina, and I moved down there, which is why I was working down there. And then she was able to get moved up here, and I was able to find me a job, get my old job back teaching. And she's like, "Man, to go grocery shopping, it's 10 miles to go anywhere. We just got to be smart when we go out to get everything we need when we go out." I'm like, "Well, yeah. Well, that's just inconvenient." Well, yeah. But, I like that inconvenience. Uh, and then she's like, "Well, we don't have any neighbors, because you can't see any houses from where we live." So she felt pretty secluded. Well, horse training came, it got horse training season. I had all sorts of horses in the barn and people coming up. She goes, "We live so far out, it's still Grand Central Station up here. Everybody's coming up to the house and they don't even call." I mean, you would think they would call before they came up. I went, "No, honey, not here. You're in the South. People come by. Well, what if we're busy?" "Oh, we just tell them we're busy, we're getting ready to leave, and they'll come back another day. It's not going to hurt their feelings." You just don't do that where I'm from, you know. So, but now she likes being way out. She likes, not, because other than when I have a lot of clients in the barn, a lot of outside horses in, we don't get much company, you know. She likes that peace and that seclusion. We don't hear traffic. We're pretty, you go to the end of the earth and you keep going. We have a bad road and we used to have a good spring, but we don't even have that now. But but it's out. It's out there. And but it's my home. I like it. It's,
Yeah,
uh,
my uncle's from Philadelphia too,
yeah,
and he came to our house, and him and my aunt were helping us paint, and we went to town to get some more paint and came back, and it was dark, and all the porch lights were on, every light in the house was on. He was scared of the dark.
oh yeah.
He was like, I heard some dogs making some noise. I didn't know what they were doing. And our neighbors have a whole lot of dogs and stuff, and I think he heard the coyotes though.
Could have been. She, that was another thing. She goes, it's dark up here. There's no light. There's no street lights where we live, you know. There's a church down below us, and they have one of those dust to dawn lights, but you can't see it from the house.
Yeah, they live in Greensboro now, my aunt and uncle.
Uh-huh.
So it's lights everywhere. They always keep lights on and everything.
Yeah, we don't. We keep it dark.
It's
Uh,
like when you go to sleep at their house, it's like daytime.
oh man. But she likes going out there and seeing the stars at night, going out there and looking at the stars because you can see them really good. Uh, her cousin came, and she's still in high school, and she's been into photography, and she's it kind of blew her away being that far out, you know, because she's used to living in the city as well. And I said, this summer is she was up here again this summer, and I said, come on, Abby, let's go for a ride. I said, grab your camera. And it was, I don't know, it was dark. It might have been like 10 o'clock or so. And so she got her camera and her tripod, and we got in we got a little Ranger. And I said, we're going around the farm. We went out to the far side of the farm, and she set up her tripod. She goes, oh, Dwayne, this is awesome. And she set up her tripod and was taking pictures of the moon and the stars. And she's like, I can't get this at home. I can't even see the stars. This is so cool. But there's a lot of advantages living in the country. Uh, so for this exam, on I've got to get one together and get it to Tom. Um, know those grazing heights, for cool season grasses and warm season, uh, or for sorghums and Sudan grass, and also for millet. Uh, know the different stages of production for livestock, for cows. Um, you're going to have to balance a ration. Now, probably what I'll do on this ration balancing assignment, you remember we were talking about the rules for developing heifers, or, the target weights. And so the example that I've put together so far, or, I'll give you a hint because I don't want y'all to get blown away when you see the ration balancing problem. I'm probably going to give you a problem like, uh, you're raising replacement. You've selected some heifers back to keep as replacements, and you're going to breed them May the 15th. And right now it's October, and you've weaned them, and they weigh, say, 500 pounds. And the mature body weight of that cow, your cow herd, their mature body weight averages 1,200. How much does that heifer need to weigh? What's the target weight for that heifer prior to breeding? So what would that be? Do you remember? She needs to be what percent of her mature body weight?
Isn't it 80%?
Okay, that's for calves.
Oh,
80%,
60.
85% for that first calf. It'd be 65% of her body weight, of the mature body weight. So you would take, let me grab my phone. So what you would do is you would take if the cows weigh an average of 1,200 pounds, right? So you take 1,200 pounds and you multiply that by 65%, that heifer needs to weigh 780 pounds prior to breeding, right? Okay. So if she currently weighs 500 pounds, that heifer needs to gain 280 pound days, 280 pound between November 1st and May 1st, right?
Yes.
Okay. So how many pounds a day does this heifer need to gain to reach that target weight of 780 pounds?
Um,
How many days do we have in November?
30.
Okay, so we got 30 days in November. So we write down our days. We got 30 days in November. We got 31 days in December, right?
Yes.
We've got 31 days in January,
Mhm.
28 days in February, right?
Yes.
31 days in March, 30 days in April, right?
Yes.
So we add those up. So 1, 2, 3, be 11, plus 8, be 11, carry my 1. So 3, 4, 5, 6, 7.
181.
I got okay. I got 181 days to gain how many pounds? 280 pounds,
Yeah.
right?
Yes.
So I take 280 and divide that by 181 days. That would come up to be
1.5.
1.54 pounds a day. So then you look at your NRC tables for a 500-pound heifer needing to gain 1.5 pounds a day, right?
Yes.
And that's where you would get her nutrient requirements. And then I'll give you the hay that we're feeding with the nutrient content of the hay and the feed that you would be feeding, the grain you would be feeding. And you'd balance it just like you balanced your other rations. Okay? So would you panic if I gave you a question like that? Now you see how simple it is to figure out how many pounds a day they need to gain?
I think I'd be good.
Okay. Remember, Jasmine, keep it simple. Break it down. No need to panic. Okay? And that goes for the rest of you guys. If I give you a problem, when I give you the problem for this ration balancing, just break it down. It's easy. Okay. Now, as you're studying for this exam, and especially Mary Short and Carrie Vaughn, I think your names, you're doing horses. I know you turned in your ration balancing for a horse. I haven't got that graded yet, and I apologize. As Jasmine well knows, and as I've said several times, I'm having major water issues at the house. But I've got to get that graded. But you're going to have to balance a ration for cattle using that Pearson square. Now, what I recommend you guys to do is to, as I told you before, do that problem that's on Blackboard on how to do the Pearson square, and then give me a call. I'll work you through it, okay? And so please call me if you have any questions. Jasmine, that goes for you too now, okay?
Okay.
You'll need to understand body condition. What's the ideal body condition score for calving? Why do we want that body condition score? Why do we want them in that body condition score? You need to know the different stages of production. You need to know what you don't need to tell me what the nutrient requirements are. You can look that up. But you do need to understand, like that first stage of production, those first 3 months after calving, that's the highest. The 6 to 9 months after calving is the lowest. The 9 to 12 months after calving is the second highest. Okay, you need to understand those concepts. You need to understand or need to know how much weight it takes to move from one body condition score to another one. That's going to be anywhere from 80 to 120 pounds. You need to know about forage management, grazing heights, issues with Sudan grass and sorghum, and Sudex. You need to understand how to prevent the prussic acid poisoning. You need to understand how to prevent nitrate poisoning with those grasses as well as with the millet. Know that teff is a good annual for horses. Know that pearl millet's good annual for horses. Understand some of the issues with fescue with horses and cattle. Remember we talked about that with decreased gains or not as good gains with fescue as you would with other type of grasses for cattle. Also with the heat, they can't tolerate the heat as well because of that endophyte. You can have the hooves slough off or the ears. I think the ears. You can have the hooves slough off, fescue foot. With horses, it can cause prolonged gestation, a thickened placenta, and no milk. So you don't want to give it to your brood mares those last 60 days prior to foaling. But you're not going to have any issues with just geldings or mares that you don't have bred. Any questions you can think of? We talked a whole lot about nutrition. You're going to need to know those 5 classes of nutrients that all animals require. You think you got it? You think you're ready for this?
Yes.
Okay. All right. So, in addition to studying for the exam, I do want you guys to get, finish balancing your rations for your project and start putting together a forage management plan. All right? Because we talked how the forage management plan is going to be part of that, your major project. Does that help you? What we discussed, is that going to help you put together a forage management plan? The correct answer is yes, okay? That is the correct answer you're supposed to give me. But I want you to be honest, okay? Did I help you or did I get you more confused?
It helped.
Okay, good. That is also another correct answer. It helped. All right. Jasmine, you have a good day. We're out of time. And we will have the exam Wednesday, and then we'll start heading into some other things. So, I shall see you tomorrow.
Okay. See you tomorrow.
All right. No colder today than it was yesterday, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, it is. They're saying we're supposed to got snow last night, but we didn't. I know the Northeast is getting pounded pretty hard by it.
Yeah.
We've had a really mild winter this year, haven't we?
I know. I'm afraid we're gonna get a whole bunch of snow pretty soon, though.
Yeah. Or it's going to turn off dry and we have another drought.
Yeah.
Well, you have a good day, Jasmine.
You too.